Right. You're live.
Okay, I'm going to call this special work session to order on today, Tuesday, September 28th, 2021. Can I get an approval of the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you, guys. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, tax rate hearing. Chris?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to this evening's tax rate hearing. Notice on the first screen here, it says 2021. So this is the tax rate hearing for the tax year 2021 and the fiscal year 2022. If it weren't complicated enough, right? So let's just dive right in. So you all know that every odd year is a reassessment year. So 2021 being an odd year, we just received the assessed valuations for our reassessment. So residential has increased nearly 14%, commercial just a little over 7.5%. Personal property is up about 5%, while manufacturing has decreased about $500,000 in assessed valuation from the prior assessment. So if we go ahead and look to see how we get to the number that we use to calculate our tax rates, we'll go row by row, column by column, left to right. So the number that we receive with no TIF or any other modifications is residential $250,623,460,000. That's our assessed valuation. To that, we have a negative TIF, which actually adds value. So that nets us a little north of $251 million on the residential side. On the commercial side, we have about $110 million in assessed valuation there. We subtract from that the $16.3 million in TIF, which nets us $93.4 million in assessed valuation from the prior assessment year, which was 2019. You can see the personal property. There's no TIFs there, so the assessed valuation of our personal property is $37.4 million, and merchants and manufacturers is $4.6 million. So these are the numbers that we'll use to calculate the rates, which I'll share with you in just a moment. So since I mentioned TIF, Maria's not here, but she's always interested in where we are with our TIFs. So here they are listed by city. And a portion of the Deer Creek pays off in 29 with completion in 35, Cambridge Commons in 28, and the Hanley Road South in 22 and 26. Now, I talked with Sarah Fox over at Richmond Heights this afternoon just to make sure that I was understanding. And the Hadley Township's TIFs are complete. The city's reclaimed its investment there. So all that has to be done is her to send the calculations to the county for the addition to the AV. So we should be seeing that as we get later into the fall. Of course, that won't impact things for this year specifically, but it will in future years. So we do have that to look forward to in the coming year. Okay, so we'll just do a historical comparison to the assessed values from 2020 to 2021. Now, these numbers are the raw numbers with no TIFs added or subtracted. So these are just the straight numbers from the valuation as if TIFs weren't there. So you can see this is where I gave you those percentages, 13.5% on residential, almost 3% on the commercial side for an overall AV increase on real estate of just under 10%. Increase on the regular side of personal property is 7.3. On the manufacturer side is actually a decrease. So here are our current year rates. So our current year tax ceiling, which is different from our highest voter authorized tax rates, which I'll talk about just a little bit here in a few slides, is 3.6959 with a 6.66 cent recoupment from prior years for a net tax rate on the residential side of $3 and a little over 76 cents. With added to that $1.35 for debt service. On the commercial side, we have a tax rate ceiling for this year of 4.4591. And to that, we add a 13.56 cent recoupment from prior years to give us a net 4.5947 on our commercial tax rate. And then personal property with no modifications is 5.4658. And of course, to each subclass of property, we add the debt service rate of $1.35, which has been the standard since 2016. Do a year over year comparison from last year to this year. You can see that we had an 8% drop on the residential side on the tax rate itself, not the assessed value, but the tax rate. A decline of 3% on commercial, decline of 1% personal property. The blended rate, which is only used to split apart, to distribute our revenues to our various accounts, and to report to DESI, that was down 3%. And debt service, of course, remains the same. And then Amber, here's your historical look. That was a very good question, so I was happy to provide that. So you can see here over time, I didn't do the percentage increase or decrease over time here, but you can see there's slight fluctuations. And then with the 2019 reassessment, a drastic drop. You know, the Hancock Amendment means that we can only receive the lesser of 5% AV growth or CPI. So in this case, for 2021, CPI was 1.4%. So that's the lowest of those three numbers that I just gave you. So, or those three variables I just gave you. So thus, we were only able to receive roughly that percentage on an increase due to assessed valuation. So while the assessed valuation goes up, the revenue only goes up slightly in comparison. You could also think of it as assessed valuation goes down, rates tend to go up. As assessments go up, rates tend to go down. Little counterintuitive, but the weird and wonderful world of tax rates. Okay, so we talked a little bit this past spring about Blankenship versus Franklin County. I'm going to read this so I don't say it wrong, since there's an attorney in the meeting here. There is a provision within statute, Missouri statute, that allowed for a levy to be the voter-approved increase may be adjusted to generate substantially the same revenue that would have been generated by applying the voter-approved increase to the total assessed valuation at the time of the voter approval, increased by the Consumer Price Index. So in Franklin County, Blankenship sued the county and was successful. The Court of Appeals decided that particular provision was unconstitutional in that it allowed tax rates to be set higher than the voter approved tax rate. So that caused the state assessors, or excuse me, the state auditor's office to go through and recalculate all Missouri school districts, all taxing authorities from the point of their last voter approved increase. For us, that was 2016. So they recalculated us 2016 forward. So you can see the before and after. In 2016, our rate was 4.8371, and then it was adjusted to the removal of this provision to statute to $4 and a little over 79 cents here. So that $4.7952 is our voter approved maximum. So everything was reset to that. And then of course that calculates forward. So you can see that since 2016, we've not hit that threshold, but we would have in 2018. So you can see again, that was kicked back down. And the way it works is they start in 2016 and we calculate everything forward. Anything that went over the voter approved maximum was adjusted to that maximum. And then that number was then rolled forward. So it did change things for us, but it didn't change things substantially because we hadn't gone over all that much. So, and also we had a recent tax levy increase, voter approved. So the impact was not as great to us as it was to perhaps some other districts. Okay, so on to the revenue side, the tax rates I've just mentioned will generate approximately 15 million on the operation side, which includes the 10 cents that we contribute to our capital projects. Capital projects is considered operations. And then the $1.35 on debt service will generate almost 9 million. You can see what we budgeted. One difference, this is a pretty big difference between the budgeted and the estimated with the rates applied. One thing that I did not have when I created our budget was the commercial construction. So in an assessment year, any construction that happened in the prior year gets deducted. So I was working off of a 0. And then in September, I all of a sudden got the new construction numbers and they were significant, 9.6 million. So that reduced a significant portion of our assessed value, which netted the significant revenue difference between what I budgeted and what the estimated is for this coming year. But usually we get pretty close. In this case, that's the reason why we did not. So you can see with that, we will have about 19.9 on the tax side as compared to the 20 that we had budgeted. But again, that delta is due to not having that new construction on when we set the budget. So you can see we're at about $151,000 increase over the prior fiscal year on the operation side, with a $341,500 increase on the debt service side. For the property side, for the residential and commercial, we're assuming about a 98% collection rate. We usually do just a little bit better than that, but I like to go with 98. It's typically been a safe number historically. And then 93% is anywhere from 91.5 to 92.5, 94 on the personal property side. So we set that one just a little bit lower. What are your questions?
Chris, I appreciate the TIF information as well and the historical, data on where we've been as far as tax rate is concerned. This is always a complicated issue. I don't really have a question, but more of just kind of a suggestion and a comment. I'm sure you guys are already thinking about this, but just having some talking points on both the commercial and the residential side as to the impact of our tax rates for our community. And historically what we've tried to do, I know we are going to come out in a comparative way, which is really kind of apples and oranges. If you look at other tax rates across other municipalities, you really do have to take into account the commercial, the construction, the residential values in each community before. So it's not really an even comparison across the board, but just ready with some communication talking points around that from administration should we have anybody reach out. I don't think on the residential side people will reach out right away, but on the commercial side I know there's some people that do follow this a lot closer, and we've had people reach out in the past. So I think these are good slides to have. Historical comparisons, we're not really varying greatly from what we've done in the past.
And I will say, if you do have any questions or need any clarification on anything, just feel free to reach out. Tax rates are complex, in a word, hard. They're hard to understand. The calculations are simple. It's where you derive the numbers and which sets that you use. So, for the person that doesn't deal with these on a regular basis, and for those of us that do, it still is a bit of a brain puzzle to put these together. So if you do feel like you need additional information, I'm happy to do a Zoom, or we can sit down for a cup of coffee, whatever you like, and talk through any of this should you feel the need.
I think you'll need a cup of coffee to talk through this.
My comment is also a communications comment. I think obviously our community and the broader community continues to be impacted financially by COVID, and while home prices are going up, that doesn't always mean that, household incomes are going up. And I recognize that of the tax bills that homeowners particularly get, the school district makes up a significant piece of that. But I do think it's important for us to talk about, we're obviously a piece of the tax bill puzzle, that homeowners have. But I know we do a good job of talking about that during, propositions. But I think it just, again, some continued messaging on, you're paying, this much on, on your bill for this public school district, but this is the, the public benefit that's, really afforded to. I think is just, again, a good reminder.
I agree with Katie. I think it's just important to thank our community, one, for all that they do, and then to recognize just where we are, both in COVID and prior to COVID. House prices have been going up for a while, and it definitely affects the community as a whole. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, so this is our only action item for today, so we can move into action items. Can I get a motion?
I move to approve the tax rate for 2021 as $3.7625 for residential real estate, $4.5947 for commercial real estate, $5.4658 for personal property, $1.35 for debt service, to be allocated by the blended rate by fund as $4.049 to the incidental fund, as 10 cents to the capital projects fund, and $1.35 to the debt service fund.
Thank you, Rachel. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Francis. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Thank you, Amber. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Katie. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody want to stay on? Hearing no opposed, motion carries. Have a great night.
Bye, guys.